My brothers and sisters, sometimes the greatest danger in your life is not the stranger outside your home, but the heart sitting right next to you. We often imagine Shaytan whispering from a distance, yet many times he reaches you through the people you trust, the people you love, the people you would never suspect, not because they are evil, but because they are human. And Shaytan knows exactly where your emotional doors are unlocked. So listen carefully today. This is not about blaming others. This is about recognizing how easily we can be misled when we let our guard down with the wrong influences. One, when love blinds you to what is wrong. My brothers and sisters, one of the most powerful tools Shaitan uses against us is not hatred, it is not anger, it is not violence, it is love. Yes, love, that beautiful gift from Allah that can elevate you when used correctly. But the moment you place someone in your heart above the boundaries set by Allah, that same love becomes a trap that blinds you to what is wrong. Think about this for a moment. When a stranger does something wrong, you notice it immediately. You feel disturbed, irritated, even offended. You might speak up, you might distance yourself. But when someone you love does the same thing, your reaction is totally different. You say, it's okay, that's just how they are. You excuse it, you hide it, you defend it, you even justify it. And without realizing, you start lowering the standards Allah set for you, not because you believe it's right, but because you don't want to lose that person's approval. This is exactly where Shaitan works with surgical precision. He doesn't whisper to you to hate your loved ones. He whispers to you to love them so much that you stop noticing when they're leading you away from Allah. He whispers, don't correct them. You will seem rude. You will upset them. You will lose their closeness. And so you keep quiet. You swallow the truth. You remain silent, even though your heart knows exactly what is happening. Silence in the face of wrongdoing is not patience, it is permission. You may think you're protecting your relationship, but in reality, you are damaging both your own heart and theirs. Because the moment you allow sin to grow unchecked in someone you love, you're indirectly helping Shaitan mislead them. And when you join them, defend them, or stay silent out of fear of tension or conflict, you begin to participate in the very thing that harms your faith. This is why Allah teaches us over and over again in the Quran that emotional attachment must never override truth. Ibrahim ﷺ loved his father deeply, but he did not follow him in shirk. Noah loved his son, but he did not compromise his obedience to Allah. Love never blinded them, because true love doesn't make you hide the truth. It makes you hold on to it even tighter for your own sake and for the sake of the one you love. Now let's bring this into real life. Imagine you have a friend who constantly backbites, insults others, or indulges in haram activities. You feel uncomfortable, but because you enjoy their company or fear losing the friendship, you never speak up. Slowly, their behavior becomes normal to you. You start laughing when they mock someone. You start joining them in gossip. You begin to adopt their habits. You become softer towards sin and harder toward reminders. And by the time you wake up, you've drifted far from the principles you once held firmly. Or look at family. Many people compromise their prayers, their modesty, their halal earnings, or their values simply because their family pushes them into it. A family member asks you to lie on their behalf. Another pressures you to join a gathering that is filled with haram activities. Another mocks your seriousness about deen. Because you love them, you feel guilty refusing them. But every time you obey someone in disobedience to Allah, your heart becomes weaker. And Shaitan celebrates because he didn't have to attack you directly. He used the person you trust the most as his doorway. This happens in relationships too. Someone loves a person so deeply that they overlook their wrong behavior. They tolerate disrespect. They accept haram flirtation. They stay in an unhealthy environment because the fear of losing that person becomes greater than the fear of displeasing Allah. That's how love becomes a blindfold. Shaitan simply nudges the person from behind, and the one blinded by love walks willingly towards sin. But here's the core truth. Love is only safe when Allah is above it. When your love is rooted in faith, it strengthens you. When it is rooted in insecurity or attachment to dunya, it weakens you. Real love wants the other person to become closer to Allah. Fake love wants comfort, attention, validation, or control, even if it means dragging both of you toward harm. If you truly love someone, you don't watch them ruin themselves. You don't stay silent when you see them walking towards sin. You don't let Shaytan use your love as a shield to protect wrongdoing. You speak with gentleness, with wisdom, with compassion, but you speak. Because advice given softly is still better than silence that kills. And if they reject your correction, mock you, or distance themselves, then understand this clearly. Anyone who wants you to compromise your faith to keep them close was never a blessing. They were a test. And Allah removes people from your life when He sees them becoming a threat to your iman. So ask yourself honestly, has love ever blinded you? Have you allowed sin in your home, your relationships, your friendships because you didn't want conflict? Have you ever chosen the comfort of people over the command of Allah? My brothers and sisters, when love blinds you to sin, Shaytan has already succeeded. But the good news is that you can remove the blindfold anytime. You can realign your heart. You can choose Allah first. And when you do, Allah will fix your relationships, purify your circle, and bring people into your life who love you for His sake, not for their own desires. 2. When a close friend normalizes haram, my brothers and sisters, one of the most subtle traps Shaytan uses against believers is not an obvious sin, not a major downfall, not something that shocks you at first sight. No, it begins with something far smaller, far quieter, far easier to overlook. A friend who makes haram feel normal, not by preaching sin openly, not by pushing you aggressively, but simply by treating disobedience as something casual and harmless. This is how Shaytan operates. He knows that if he tells you to commit a major sin directly, your heart will resist, your conscience will speak, your faith will pull you back. But if he introduces that same sin through someone you trust, someone who makes you laugh, someone who makes you feel comfortable, someone whose presence feels easy, then your heart lowers its guard without even realizing it. Because you're not just influenced, you're influenced by someone you like. Think about it. When a stranger does something wrong in front of you, you feel the discomfort immediately. If someone you don't know backbites, lies, mocks others, uses foul language, or engages in haram entertainment, you stay alert. You sense the danger, but when a close friend does the same thing, you don't react the same way. You tell yourself, it's okay, that's just how we joke. Or you say, it's not that serious. Or worse, you stop noticing it altogether. And this is exactly what Shaytan wants. He doesn't need you to become sinful overnight. He only needs you to stop feeling sin in your heart. He only needs your sense of wrong and right to blur. He only needs you to stop resisting what once bothered your soul. Because the moment you stop resisting, the slide begins. Let's be brutally honest. Many people don't fall into sin because they are evil. They fall because they are surrounded by people who laugh at sin, trivialize it, make it look entertaining, and remove its seriousness. When a friend jokes about something, haram, repeats it often, treats it lightly, your heart starts absorbing that attitude. You begin to soften toward the behavior. And once the heart softens toward a sin, committing it becomes easier than you ever expected. Let me give you a simple example. You have a friend who constantly speaks negatively about others. They gossip, they insult, they expose people's faults. At first you're uncomfortable, then you begin to laugh along, then you start adding your own comments. And in time, this becomes your new normal. Do you think Shaytan needed to tempt you directly? No. He used your friend to turn your heart away from mercy and compassion without you noticing. Or imagine a friend who invites you to places where modesty is ignored, where Allah's boundaries are crossed. They say, come on, don't be so strict. Just relax, everyone does it. At first you feel guilt, then the guilt fades. Then you start enjoying what once troubled you. That is the power of normalization. And Shaytan is the expert of normalization. Shaytan loves the friend who says, come on, it's not that serious. He loves the friend who says it's just a joke. He loves the friend who says, we're young, enjoy life. Because he knows those sentences repeated over time kill your spiritual sensitivity. He knows the heart doesn't corrupt through one big event, it corrupts through repeated exposures that feel harmless. And here's the part most people don't want to admit. The people who normalize haram in your life don't do it because they hate you. They do it because they are trapped themselves. Their hearts have already been softened towards sin. Their standards have already been lowered. They think they are just being fun or relaxed. But what they don't realize is that they've become an instrument for Shaytan, a tool he uses to drag others with them. That's why the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, told us so strongly about choosing friends carefully. One friend will strengthen your faith, and one friend will silently destroy it without ever raising their voice. You don't need someone who lectures you daily. You just need someone who reminds you of Allah simply by how they behave, how they speak, how they carry themselves, what they avoid and what they encourage. Now look at your own life. Think about your circle. Who makes sin feel light to you? Who makes you comfortable with behavior you once avoided? Who pulls you toward gatherings, jokes, conversations, or lifestyles that weaken your connection with Allah? That person might not hate you, but their influence is dangerous. And dangerous influence is often more harmful than dangerous intention. Let me share something deeper. Shaytan doesn't attack your friendship, he attacks your loyalty. He wants you to value the bond more than you value obedience to Allah. He wants you to fear losing your friend, but not fear losing your iman. He wants you to stay quiet when your friend does wrong, because he knows your silence is easier to achieve than your sin. First he silences you, then he slowly reshapes you. That is his strategy. But there is another side to this. Some of you are that friend to someone else. You may not realize it, but your choices, your jokes, your habits might be normalizing sin for someone who trusts you. You might be the doorway Shaitan uses to reach their heart. And that should shake you, because causing someone to fall even unintentionally is not something small. This is why we must constantly check our own character, not just for ourselves, but for the people who walk beside us. So what do you do if you recognize this problem? You don't cut people off harshly, you don't humiliate them, you don't act self-righteous, you simply begin protecting your heart. You set boundaries, you reduce environments that weaken you, you shift conversations, you gently remind them when appropriate, and if someone refuses to respect your values, then step back quietly. You are not obligated to stay close to anyone who pulls you away from Allah. My brothers and sisters, a friend who normalizes haram is not harmless. They are one of Shaitan's easiest tools. And the most dangerous part is that the harm doesn't feel like harm, it feels like fun, comfort, belonging. But the price is paid with your heart. 3. When family pressure pushes you away from Allah, my brothers and sisters, this is one of the hardest realities to face. And most people are too afraid to talk about it honestly. Sometimes the people who share your blood, the people you love, respect, and grew up with, become the very force that pulls you away from Allah. Not because they are villains, but because they are human beings shaped by habits, culture, ego, and desires. And Shaitan knows this. He knows that you fear disappointing your family more than disappointing Allah. So he uses that fear against you. Let's be real. When a stranger mocks you for praying, you ignore them. When a co-worker belittles your modesty, you don't care. But when your own mother tells you, "Why are you so religious suddenly?" Or your father says, "Stop acting like a sheikh." Or your siblings roll their eyes at your attempt to improve, it hits differently. It hurts deeper. And that emotional weight becomes the doorway Shaitan uses to pressure your heart into silence, compromise, or complete surrender. Family pressure is powerful because it's tied to love, obligation, respect, and fear of conflict. These emotions aren't small. They can move mountains, and they can also move you away from the right path if you don't stay conscious. Let's break this down properly. There are homes where a young person wants to pray, but as soon as they get up for salah, a family member mocks them. "Why are you acting holy? You weren't like this before." Instead of encouraging you, they embarrass you. They make you feel abnormal for trying to obey Allah. And if your heart is not strong, you start doubting yourself. You start thinking maybe you're overreacting, maybe you're doing too much, maybe it's easier to just skip the prayer so you don't get questioned again. And that's exactly how Shaitan works, not through direct temptation, but through emotional pressure. There are families where a young woman wants to wear hijab. She feels conviction, sincerity, and a desire to please Allah. But her parents say, "You look old." Her siblings say, "People will judge you." Her friends say, "You're ruining your style." They attack the act of worship through embarrassment, insecurity, and fear of social perception. And this pressure becomes heavier than the command of Allah unless her heart stays firm. There are families where someone wants to earn halal income, but their relatives push them toward shortcuts, deception, or unethical business because this is how everyone does it. They make halal seem unrealistic and haram seem necessary. If you resist, they call you weak. If you insist on principles, they say you'll fail in life. They weaponize fear of poverty, fear of embarrassment, and fear of being left behind. And Shaytan feeds these fears until you start questioning whether obeying Allah is even practical. Then there are homes where trying to avoid haram gatherings becomes a battle. You want to stay away from mixed, inappropriate parties or events filled with alcohol, gossip, and indecency. But your family says, stop being dramatic. Just sit quietly. Don't embarrass us. Notice the pattern. Whenever someone pressures you toward disobedience, they always use shame as a tool. Not because they care about Allah, but because they care about appearances, comfort, and fitting into society. Shaitan loves families that operate through shame. He loves households where religion is mocked, where piety is labeled extreme, where sin is accepted because this is our culture. He doesn't need to whisper to you, he whispers to them, and they deliver the message with emotional force. But here is the truth most people avoid. Family does not excuse you from responsibility before Allah. Their influence does not change your accountability. You will not be able to stand before Allah on the day of judgment and say, Ya Allah, I didn't pray because my mother didn't like it. Or, Ya Allah, I committed haram because my father pressured me. Or, I removed my hijab because my relatives mocked me. Allah gave you a heart. He gave you conviction. He gave you truth. What you choose to do with that truth is your test. And let's be clear, Islam never asks you to fight your family. It never asks you to be rude, arrogant, or harsh. It asks you to be respectful, gentle, patient, and wise while staying obedient to Allah. The moment you start bending your religion to keep the peace at home, you've misunderstood peace. Peace built on disobedience is not peace, it's surrender. And surrender is exactly what Shaitan wants. You must learn to distinguish between respecting your family and following them blindly. Those are not the same. Respect is required. Blind obedience is not. Your family is not your God. Your culture is not your guidance. Your love for them cannot override your loyalty to Allah. Some of you live in homes where your transformation threatens people. They mock your religiosity because your worship reminds them of their own laziness. Your modesty exposes their lack of discipline. Your prayers make their excuses uncomfortable. Your growth shakes the comfort of everyone who has settled into a careless lifestyle. They are not attacking you, they are protecting their own comfort. And Shaitan uses that insecurity to pressure you. But listen carefully, Allah never tests you without also strengthening you. For every family member who discourages you, Allah sends someone, even if it's one person, who encourages you. For every voice that belittles your worship, Allah puts a voice inside your heart reminding you of the truth. For every moment you feel alone at home, Allah surrounds you with His angels when you stand in prayer. You're not alone, you're being shaped. Let's be even more blunt. If your family's approval requires you to disobey Allah, then their approval is harmful. If maintaining peace at home requires you to damage your iman, then that peace is fake. If pleasing them means displeasing Allah, then step back quietly, gently, respectfully, but firmly. Because you will stand before Allah alone. Your father won't speak for you. Your mother won't justify your choices. Your siblings won't share your accountability. You will answer for yourself, and no amount of family pressure will protect you on that day. My brothers and sisters, your family can be your greatest blessing or your greatest test, but Allah never leaves you without guidance. The path is always open for the one who chooses Him. 4. When anger spreads through relationships. My brothers and sisters, anger is one of the most dangerous entry points Shaitan uses, not because anger itself is forbidden, but because uncontrolled anger turns a small spark into a wildfire that destroys relationships, wounds hearts, and poisons entire households. And Shaitan does not whisper to only one person during anger. He whispers to both sides, pushing them step by step toward emotional destruction. Most sins require effort. Anger requires nothing. It erupts instantly, without planning, without warning. That is why the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, gave such strong advice when a man asked for guidance. He said, do not get angry. The man repeated the question, And the Prophet continued repeating the same answer. Why? Because once anger hijacks your heart, Shaytan takes control of your reactions, your tongue, your decisions, and your dignity. Listen carefully. Shaytan doesn't need your entire heart during anger. He only needs one moment, one reckless sentence, one insult, one uncontrolled reaction, and relationships you have built over years can break in seconds. Think about your own life. How many families have stopped speaking to each other because of a single argument? How many friendships ended with one heated exchange? How many marriages crumbled because one spouse reacted in anger without restraint? The destruction rarely comes from a major issue. It usually comes from the words thrown like knives when tempers explode. This is Shaitan's work. He doesn't plant hatred first, he plants irritation. He plants ego. He plants impatience. And when the heart is heated, he pushes it over the edge. What makes anger so dangerous is that it doesn't need truth. It only needs emotion. In moments of rage, even intelligent people say foolish things. Even gentle people become harsh. Even patient people lose control. Then when the anger fades, the damage remains and words cannot be taken back. This is why the Prophet warned us that anger is from Shaytan, and Shaytan is made of fire. Fire only spreads when you feed it. Now look at how anger spreads through relationships. Let's say one person comes home stressed. Shaitan whispers to them, just snap, they deserve it. They raise their voice. The other person, instead of calming down, hears Shaitan whisper to them as well, don't let them talk to you like that. Respond stronger. And suddenly two voices rise, two hearts burn, two egos collide. And Shaitan steps back, satisfied, watching them destroy each other while thinking they're defending themselves. Then the anger moves outward. When one person is hurt, they treat someone else harshly. Then that person carries the frustration to another, and suddenly the entire household is tense. One person's moment of weakness infects everyone around them. Shaitan doesn't need to whisper to every individual, he only needs to ignite one heart. The rest is emotional chain reaction. Let's be brutally honest. Many of you grew up in homes where anger was normal. You saw parents fight. You saw siblings insult each other. You saw love mixed with harshness. Over time, you began to believe that yelling is communication, that insults are part of family life, that blowing up is just how people are. Shaitan loves this. He normalizes rage through familiarity. If you see anger your whole life, you stop seeing the danger in it. And once something becomes normal, you stop resisting it. But anger doesn't just destroy relationships, it destroys your connection with Allah. When someone is angry, prayer becomes harder, Quran becomes heavier, kindness feels impossible. You start feeling distant from everything spiritual because Shaitan uses that anger to poison your heart. You may even feel regret or sadness afterward, but the damage has already taken root. Now let's take a deeper look. Why does Shaitan push anger so much? Because anger damages more than the moment, it damages the heart's environment. When you respond harshly to someone, they remember it long after you've forgotten. When you speak without thinking, you may plant trauma in someone who looked up to you. When you allow your ego to dominate, you become a source of pain rather than mercy. Shaitan doesn't just attack the person who gets angry, he attacks every person touched by that anger. But notice something, Shaitan rarely whispers, start screaming right now. He's smarter than that. First, he whispers little irritations. He reminds you of old frustrations. He exaggerates small flaws in the other person. He feeds your ego, telling you you're right and the other person is wrong. He convinces you you're being disrespected even when you're not. By the time anger bursts, he has already prepared your heart to explode. There is another layer. Anger comes fastest from those we love most. Why? Because we feel safe expressing our worst side with them. We do not fear losing them. We assume they will understand. And because of this, we show them the ugliest parts of ourselves. Shaitan knows the psychological weakness. He uses the security of love to justify emotional abuse. He uses closeness to encourage harshness. That's why the people who hurt each other most are often the ones who care about each other, because Shaitan places himself between their hearts during conflict. But here is the truth you must face. Anger is not strength. Anger is not confidence. Anger is not dominance. Anger is loss of control, and the one who loses control becomes easy prey. Shaitan's job becomes effortless when you hand him your emotions. So what do? You begin by recognizing the pattern. When you feel heat rising in your chest, understand that this is not you being you. This is the moment Shaitan is trying to enter. When someone pushes your buttons, pause. When your ego screams to respond, breathe. When a person raises their voice, lower yours. Whoever controls their anger wins peace, wins respect, wins Allah's reward, and wins over Shaytan. You must also protect your home. If anger lives inside your walls, your home becomes Shaytan's playground. But if mercy dominates, your home becomes a place where angels reside. You choose which one you invite. My brothers and sisters, anger is not a small matter. It is one of Shaytan's most reliable weapons. He does not need to break your faith in one big moment. He only needs you to break someone's heart in a small moment. That alone can corrupt your soul. 5. When good people slip and take you down with them. My brothers and sisters, this is one of the most misunderstood realities in our spiritual journey. Good people can make mistakes, and their mistakes can take you down with them if you are not careful. Shaitan doesn't only work through corrupt people. Sometimes he works through people who genuinely mean well, people you trust, people you admire, people who have good hearts but weak moments. And if you attach yourself to them more than to the truth, you will fall whenever they fall. Let's speak plainly. Being a good person does not make someone infallible. Having a kind heart does not make someone spiritually immune. A person can pray, give charity, love Allah sincerely, and still slip into moments of heedlessness, weakness, or poor judgment. That is human nature. Allah created us capable of excellence and capable of error. But Shaitan uses those moments of error to create a chain reaction. Here is where the danger lies. You assume that because someone is good, everything they do must be good. You stop questioning, you stop thinking critically, you stop measuring actions by Allah's guidance. Instead, you measure by personality, familiarity, or admiration. And the moment you follow a person blindly, you set yourself up for spiritual collapse when they stumble. Let me make it real for you. Imagine a friend who has always been supportive, kind, and helpful. Someone who once encouraged you toward good, but one day they fall into a bad habit, maybe out of stress or emotional pain. They start listening to things they shouldn't, speaking in ways they never used to, slipping into actions that don't align with their values. Because you see them as a good person, you ignore the changes, you dismiss the signs. You tell yourself they must have a reason. And then, without realizing, you start joining them. Not because the behavior is right, but because the person feels right. Shaitan loves this. He doesn't target you directly. He targets the good person you trust, knowing you will follow them out of loyalty. Or think about someone you look up to, an older sibling, a cousin, a mentor, someone whose advice shaped you. One day they take a step towards something harmful. They justify it. They make it seem harmless. And because you respect them, you copy them. Not because your heart is convinced, but because you don't want to question someone you admire. You let their slip become your path. This is how Shaitan traps believers who genuinely seek good. He knows you won't follow someone obviously sinful, but you will follow someone righteous who has a moment of weakness. You see the trap? Shaitan does not need to corrupt a community. He only needs to corrupt the person everyone else trusts just a little. Their mistake becomes the excuse for everyone else's mistake. Their slip becomes evidence that maybe it's okay. Their misjudgment becomes the new standard. But Islam teaches you something different. You follow principles, not personalities. Personalities change. Principles do not. People rise and fall. Allah's guidance never wavers. People get tired, emotional, or distracted. The Quran never loses its clarity. Even the slippage of a good person cannot make haram halal, cannot make harmful things harmless, cannot turn disobedience into righteousness. Let's go deeper. Sometimes good people fall because they're carrying wounds you don't see, emotional pain, stress, exhaustion, trauma. When someone is hurting, they look for relief wherever they can find it. And one wrong choice opens a door Shaitan pushes wider. If you are emotionally attached to them, you may follow them without realizing that their decisions are coming from pain, not wisdom. You must separate sympathy from imitation. You can support someone in their struggle without adopting their mistakes. You can comfort someone without copying what they do. Caring for someone does not mean copying them. Love should make you protective of them, not destructive toward yourself. There is also another layer. Sometimes you yourself are the good person who slips. You have influence. Someone looks up to you. Someone follows your behavior silently. Someone imitates you without telling you. And when you slip, they slip harder. When you become careless, they become reckless. When you lower your standards, they drop theirs altogether. That should shake you, because your mistakes don't only harm you, they harm hearts that trust you. This is why Allah tells us to constantly purify ourselves, not to be perfect, but to avoid letting our weaknesses mislead others. Now let's address a common excuse people use. But if they do it and they're good, then it must not be that bad for me. No, that is deception. Allah will not judge you by their standards, He will judge you by His own. If someone good falls, your job is not to follow. Your job is to stand firm, and if possible, to help lift them back up. Look at the Prophet's stories. Even they had moments of exhaustion and stress, but they never misled their communities. Allah protected them because they were the anchors of truth. But we are not prophets. We are weak. We are influenced, we are vulnerable, which means you must be extremely careful whom you let shape your spiritual decisions. So how do you protect yourself? You begin by anchoring your heart to Allah before anchoring it to people. When someone you love drifts, you feel sadness but not confusion. When someone you respect makes a mistake, you feel concern but not temptation. When someone righteous slips, you feel compassion but not justification. Because you understand that righteousness is not inherited, it is chosen every day. And every day you must choose Allah over imitation, loyalty or convenience. Let me be blunt. You can love people, admire people and learn from people, but you cannot give anyone the power to pull you away from Allah. Not even good people, not even people you trust, not even people who once guided you. If they slip, you don't fall with them. You stay firm, you stay grounded, you stay conscious, and then you extend your hand to them with humility, hoping Allah lifts both of you. My brothers and sisters, good people can slip, good hearts can get lost, good souls can fall into shadows, but the believer who survives is the one who follows truth, not the footsteps of anyone, no matter how beloved or righteous they once were. 6. When emotional attachment becomes a weakness. My brothers and sisters, if there is one doorway Shaytan uses more effectively than anything else, it is your emotions, not your logic, not your knowledge, your emotions. Because emotions bypass the mind and go straight to the heart. And once something reaches the heart, it becomes far more difficult to fight. Among all emotions, the one Shaytan studies the most is your attachment. Who do you fear losing? Whose approval do you crave? Whose voice affects your mood? Whose absence makes you anxious? Whose anger terrifies you more than Allah's displeasure? Whose rejection wounds you deeply? These are the questions Shaitan already knows the answers to, and he uses them against you with precision. Emotional attachment is not haram. It is human. Allah created us with the capacity to love, bond and connect. A heart without attachment is lifeless, but a heart that is attached incorrectly becomes directionless. And Shaitan preys on directionless hearts. Let me break this down so clearly that you cannot misunderstand it. Every human attachment you have is either a source of strength or a point of vulnerability. When your attachment is rooted in Allah, meaning you love someone for His sake, support someone within His limits and remain loyal without compromising your values, then that attachment becomes a source of barakah, growth, mercy and protection. But when your attachment is rooted in fear, loneliness, insecurity, desire or emotional dependence, then that attachment becomes a weakness. Shaitan exploits. He whispers to you through that relationship. He uses that emotional bond to influence your decisions. He turns your love into a leash that he holds. Think of someone who deeply loves a friend, a partner, a family member. They fear hurting them, disappointing them, or losing them. Over time, that fear becomes stronger than the fear of displeasing Allah. And so they start compromising first in small ways, then in bigger ways. They skip prayers because they feel embarrassed to pray in front of that person. They hide their Islam because they don't want to seem too serious. They participate in haram gatherings because they don't want to be left out. They agree to sinful behavior because they don't want to lose affection. They stay in toxic environments because they fear loneliness more than spiritual harm. That is emotional attachment becoming spiritual weakness. Shaitan doesn't tell them, disobey Allah. Instead, he whispers, don't upset them. They'll leave, they'll get angry. They won't like you anymore. And these thoughts, repeated over time, reshape your priorities until the thing you fear losing becomes your new God, replacing Allah in the hidden corners of your heart. Let me give you a clear example. A young man loves a woman so much that he cannot imagine life without her. She asks him to compromise his values. She wants attention in haram ways. She wants him to do things he knows are wrong. But because of his emotional dependency, he obeys her. Not because he believes she is right, but because he is terrified of losing her. Shaitan whispers, if you don't do it, she'll leave. You'll be alone. And the fear of heartbreak becomes stronger than the fear of the hereafter. Or think of a young woman in a relationship where she is emotionally manipulated. The man pushes her toward haram, isolates her from good influences, makes her feel guilty for setting boundaries, convinces her that she is nothing without him. Shaitan doesn't need to whisper much. The emotional attachment itself becomes the voice that misleads her. Let's talk about family. Many people obey their parents not because it is right, but because they fear disapproval. They avoid hijab, avoid prayer, avoid Islamic values because they're emotionally attached to their parents' acceptance more than Allah's acceptance. Emotional fear outweighs spiritual duty. This is how attachments misguide even good-hearted people. Hear this truth clearly. Shaitan studies your attachments more than your sins. He learns who your heart clings to. He watches what makes you weak. He observes who has emotional power over you. And then he uses those people not because they are evil, but because you have placed them on a pedestal higher than obedience. Understand something deeper. Emotional attachment becomes dangerous when you lose yourself inside it. When you cannot say no, when you cannot set boundaries, when you cannot walk away from harm, when your entire mood, identity and stability depend on another human being. This gives Shaitan access to your heart through a door you refuse to close. Let me speak to you honestly. If you feel you would lose yourself without someone, that is not love, that is dependence. And dependence on Allah strengthens you, but dependence on people weakens you. Allah created us to need Him, not to cling desperately to creation. Now, does this mean you should cut off everyone you love? No. Islam is not a religion of emotional detachment. Islam is a religion of balanced attachment. You love people, but you do not worship them. You care for them, but you do not compromise your values for them. You stay loyal, but you do not lose yourself. You support them, but you do not follow them into harm. Your love should lift you closer to Allah, not pull you away from Him. Ask yourself honestly right now, who in your life has the power to make you disobey Allah? Who controls your emotions to the point that you ignore what your heart knows? Who do you fear losing more than your iman? These are the relationships where Shaitan whispers the loudest. Now let's flip the perspective. Some of you are the person someone else is emotionally attached to, and your actions, your behavior, your moods, your decisions may be shaping someone in ways you don't understand. If you pull them toward good, you are a blessing. If you pull them toward harm, even unintentionally, you become part of Shaitan's work. This should humble you. It should make you watch yourself. It should make you cautious of how you influence the hearts around you. My brothers and sisters, emotional attachment is beautiful when it is anchored in Allah. It becomes destructive when it replaces Allah. The heart was not designed to depend on creation. It was designed to depend on the Creator. Any attachment that leads you away from Him is not love, it is a test. 7. When you yourself become the tool Shaitan uses. My brothers and sisters, this final lesson is the hardest one to face because it requires brutal honesty with yourself. It's easy to point out everyone else's influence. It's easy to say, this person misled me, or that person harmed my faith, or Shaitan used them against me. But the real test, the one that separates sincere believers from those who only blame others, is recognizing that sometimes you are the one Shaitan uses to mislead, hurt, or weaken another person's iman. This is not about calling yourself evil. It's about understanding human vulnerability. Even good people can unintentionally become pathways for Shaitan when they act with ego, carelessness, or emotional instability. And the most dangerous part, you may not even realize it. Shaitan doesn't need to destroy your entire character. He just needs one flaw, one weakness, one unguarded moment, and he will use that moment to impact someone who trusts you. Let's go deep into this reality. There are times when your words, spoken without thought, crush someone's spirit. A sarcastic joke, an insult thrown in anger, a careless comment about someone's sincerity, knowledge or effort, these things stay in a person's heart far longer than you ever intended. Shaitan takes that one sentence and repeats it in their mind for months, convincing them they're worthless, unloved, or incapable of goodness. You spoke once. Shaytan echoes it endlessly. Sometimes your behavior becomes the reason someone distances themselves from Allah. Maybe you claim to be religious but treat others harshly. Maybe you advise people but don't live by your own advice. Maybe you show hypocrisy without realizing it. People watch you, your siblings, your spouse, your children, your friends, and Shaytan whispers to them, if this is what religious people look like, then stay away from religion. You didn't intend harm, but your inconsistency became Shaytan's weapon. There are times when you show jealousy, impatience, or arrogance towards someone who is trying to improve. You make them feel embarrassed for wanting to become better. You mock their early attempts at worship. You question their sincerity, saying, you're acting holy now. Shaytan takes your words and uses them to suffocate that person's motivation. You speak once, they lose confidence for weeks. Do you see the pattern? Shaytan doesn't need you to sin loudly. He needs you to influence others quietly. There are households where a single angry person changes the entire emotional climate. When you enter the room with a bad mood, everyone becomes tense. When you shout, others shut down. When you act cold, others feel neglected. Your emotional instability becomes Shaytan's playground, affecting not only you but every heart connected to you. Or consider friendships. Sometimes you don't push someone towards sin directly, but you normalize it around them. You introduce things that weaken their heart. You make harmful behavior seem harmless. You invite them into spaces they would not enter alone. Shaitan whispers to you, it's not that serious, and you unknowingly become the doorway he uses for your friend. Let me give you an even more difficult example. Parenting. A child learns Islam first from the parents. If a parent is harsh, hypocritical, constantly angry, constantly backbiting, showing one face in public and another at home, the child's faith becomes confused. Shaitan uses the parent's behavior to shape the child's perception of Islam itself. This is not intentional harm, but it is harm. And many children struggle spiritually not because of Islam, but because of the version of Islam they saw inside their homes. Now listen carefully. The purpose of this lesson is not to make you feel guilty for every mistake. Guilt is useless without awareness. The purpose is to open your eyes to a truth. Most people ignore your actions influence more hearts than you realize. And that means you carry responsibility, not perfection, responsibility. Shaitan wants you to believe your behavior doesn't matter. He wants you to think, it's my life, my heart, my decisions. But Islam teaches the opposite. You are part of a community. Your character affects not just your destiny, but the destinies of those who orbit your life. A single person can influence an entire family. A single friend can influence an entire circle. A single sibling can influence younger brothers and sisters. A single teacher, mentor, or role model can influence countless hearts. Shaitan knows influence multiplies. He studies it. He uses it strategically. Now ask yourself the hard questions. Have you ever discouraged someone from doing good with your negativity? Have you ever mocked someone's sincerity out of jealousy or insecurity? Have you ever pressured someone into sin because you didn't want to feel alone in it? Have you ever hidden your poor behavior behind jokes or sarcasm? Have you ever shifted someone away from Allah because of your emotional storms? Have you ever caused someone pain through words you never meant seriously? These questions are uncomfortable but necessary. The believer's heart should tremble at the thought of being used by Shaitan. It should make you strive to become a source of guidance, not misguidance. A source of healing, not harm. A source of clarity, not confusion. But here's the beauty of Islam. The moment you become conscious, you become dangerous to Shaitan, because awareness removes his entry points. How do you stop being a tool Shaitan uses? You begin by watching your tongue deeply, intentionally. You begin by controlling your anger even when it burns. You begin by treating people with gentleness, especially those weaker than you. You begin by apologizing when you're wrong sincerely, without ego. You begin by checking your intentions constantly, relentlessly. You begin by living the values you preach even privately. You will still make mistakes. Everybody does. But the difference lies in how quickly you correct them and how deeply you care about their impact. My brothers and sisters, the strongest believers are not the ones who never fall. They are the ones who make sure their fall does not cause others to collapse. They protect the hearts around them. They guard their influence. They purify their intentions. They fear being used as instruments of harm. and they beg Allah to make them sources of light wherever they stand. My brothers and sisters, if there is one truth that should settle into your heart after everything we've discussed, it is this: Shaytan does not need to destroy you directly. He only needs to use the people around you, and sometimes he uses you without you even realizing it. This entire journey of awareness is not about blaming others, nor is it about drowning in guilt. It is about understanding how deeply interconnected our hearts are, how influence flows, how words echo, and how actions ripple far beyond what we see. Shaitan's goal is simple: break your connection with Allah by weakening the relationships that surround you. If he cannot misguide you through sin, he will try through love. If not through love, then through anger. If not through anger, then through fear, loneliness, pressure, or emotional dependency. He looks for the weakest point and he pushes. But here is the comfort you must remember: the believer who is aware cannot be taken easily. Awareness itself is protection. Consciousness is a shield. Clarity is armor. When you understand the ways Shaitan enters, you begin to close those doors one by one until he finds no easy path to your heart. You learn to love without losing your boundaries. You learn to obey Allah even when family disagrees. You learn to choose friends who lift you, not drown you. You learn to control your anger before it controls your life. You learn to support others without following them into darkness. You learn to hold your emotions without letting them hold you. You learn to examine yourself before examining others. And through all of this, you discover a deeper truth. Guidance is not just about what you do, it is also about who you allow to shape your heart. The reality is, you will always be influenced by someone. No one grows alone. No one walks to Jannah in isolation. So choose your influences wisely. And just as importantly, become someone whose presence strengthens others, whose words heal, whose advice uplifts, whose mistakes are quickly corrected, whose character reflects sincerity, and whose heart stays anchored to Allah no matter who comes or goes from your life. Do not fear losing people who pull you away from Allah. Fear losing Allah while trying to keep people. Do not fear disappointing creation. Fear disappointing the one who created you. Do not fear walking alone for a while. Fear walking with people who lead you away from your own soul. And remember this: Allah sees every moment you fight your anger. He sees every time you choose silence instead of hurt. He sees every time you step back from sin even when pressured. He sees every tear you shed privately because you don't want to harm anyone. He sees every effort you make to heal hearts instead of wounding them. None of it is wasted, not a single moment. So as we close this reminder, ask Allah sincerely: Ya Allah, protect my heart from becoming a doorway for Shaitan. Ya Allah, protect me from being misled through the people I love. Ya Allah, protect the people I love from being misled through me. Ya Allah, strengthen my relationships through your guidance, not through my desires. Ya Allah, make me a source of light, not a source of harm. My brothers and sisters, stay awake, stay conscious, stay humble, and stay close to Allah, because the one who holds tightly to Allah cannot be shaken by Shaitan, no matter what strategy he uses or who he tries to use.